Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today is going to be an inside job. Yes, many of you have been asking about, well, those of you who have an eagle eye have been asking about this badge sat next to me, which obviously is on a car. And this car I've not done actually any videos on other than maybe the sound of the exhaust, which you may have seen on my channel. So today I have the certificate of authenticity to give you the in-depth view of what this car is and all the options that it came with. It's going to be an interior walk round today, or interior sit down is probably the best way to put it, because the weather is shocking out there today. So I'll split this into two parts with the interior and then followed by the exterior. But let's take a look at what this car really is. So here is the Porsche certificate of authenticity that I have got from Porsche UK, or GB Limited as they say. This is a lovely touch that they give owners the chance to own, and you can write off and get this for a small fee, or you can get it through the Porsche GB Club as a part of the membership, I believe. And what it allows you to do is just to validate, obviously, the car that you have, all the spec it had that was basically option when the car left the factory. So from that perspective, it's a really, really nice touch for a current owner, but also if you look to move the car on, it gives the next owner, you know, a really good insight to what the car should have when looking around. Now, when this one was spec'd, it was done as a Porsche 996 Turbo Coupe. You can see the engine there, along with the completion of build date back in 2003. It has the transmission number and type, the date of registration, so September 2003, so you can see the sort of build times based on order. It was sold by the Porsche Centre in East London. It was spec'd with Lapis Blue Metallic, and that's the code for that, and the interior was the Metropole Blue. Here's where really the certificate validates the important stuff, and that is the optional equipment that the car comes with from factory. And as you can see, there's a pretty extensive list on this particular car that I own. It was a car that I actually looked for a little while, and I was toying around with, and when it came up for sale, I pounced, really because of a couple of the bits that it comes with, which we'll go through now. Firstly, the car is a Tiptronic. It's it's a good debate to have with the 996 Turbo, whether the manual gearbox or the Tiptronic gearbox in the long term is the best. I mean, these tend to be pretty bulletproof, the Tiptronic gearboxes, and although they're fully auto, you do have the chance to change manual in some way, shape or form, but I'll show you that when we get into the car. So I opted for that just because of the reports that that gearbox tends to be a bit more robust than the manual, but again, I'm sure people will have their views and opinions on that in the comments. Then you can see that I had the wheel centers in the full color Porsche crest, top tinted windscreen, electric sunroof, the telephone module for the PCM system or the radio. Back in the day, it wasn't uncommon to have a full-size phone sort of hanging in the interior there. So thankfully mine doesn't have that, but it does have the setup that you can plug one in if you so needed to. It's got the 6-disc auto changer, which is fitted in the front boot of the car, or the fruit. One of the big things that is really cool on these is I managed to find one with the carbon package, so we'll look at that and all the carbon that's in the interior fitted. It's got the Porsche Communications PCM management, and here, in a very subtle way, it says Power Kit, and the Power Kit is the X50 upgrade to the car that really is what the Porsche Turbo S is based on as well, because the power kit really gives you bigger intercoolers, turbos, and takes the power from the 414 up to closer to the 450 bhp, which back in the day was a pretty hefty pretty hefty option in terms of cost. I want to say it's thousands. Okay, I'm sure someone will tell you the exact cost of that. So to find a 996 turbo with the power kit, with the X50 kit, tends to be pretty rare. They weren't a huge amount of them built. So the S, which obviously was the sort of the last run out of the 996 Turbo S, had all of those items added as standard, as well as the Porsche carbon brakes as well, which I haven't got the carbon brakes, but that power kit was something I was definitely after. It is spec'd with the chrome-plated stainless steel tailpipes, aluminium coloured instrument dials, the Porsche crest embossed headrests, carbon and aluminium Tiptronic and handbrakes, so the carbon to match the carbon package. That is the spec of the car. So let's get inside and take a look around. So here is the badge that many of you spotted through my other videos, and we'll start here just very quickly because the options list that we just went through on the certificate are highlighted here underneath the hood. That's generally where you will find all the details needed to validate what your car has and all the codes. And if that just focuses there, you can see just here the X50 pack, and that's the one that you really want to see on that. Obviously got my trickle charger and so on, and the disc system that was specified, but let's get through to the interior and have a look. Just on the way there you will see obviously the nice looking big calipers, and that was an optional extra, having the coloured version of the Porsche logo centre caps. As we walk down the side of the car and we open it up, the first thing that you're greeted with is the turbo kick plate, and you can see the settings for the memory seats, and then the hood lift and rear hood lift as well. So let's start off in the back of the car and just push that forward. It generally works pretty quickly. And the first glimpse of the interior at the back. So if you are lucky enough to sit in the back of one of these, generally they're not really fit for adults. The first thing you'll see is that the hood, or the roof I should say, is pretty low, so as an adult your head will be touching that, as well as literally having nowhere to put your legs. So really these seats are great for younger children, but if you do want to force one of your friends in the back, then yeah, it'll be a nice tight squeeze. The other thing that you'll see generally is that these cars are covered in leather from head to toe. So all of the door panels are leather, which sort of matches the leather pack interior that was specified. Always think they're quite a nice touch. The little hooks on the back of the front seats to hang your jacket, but they also come with an additional hook on the side as well. So yeah, if you were one of those traders in the day, you had lots of places to hang your jackets. The other thing is you will start to see from the back view that some of the carbon pack additions include the surrounds on the speakers themselves, and just so you can get a view of the weave of the carbon, that's a nice little touch that comes with the car in terms of the pack that was specified on this one. Hasn't got rear hasn't got the rear mats on mine. I haven't actually gone to see if I can find some, but I've got the front mats and so on. So this is generally the view. And when you put the seat back, I mean, that's with the seat fully forward. My legs are touching obviously the back of the seat here, and you have zero room. So unless someone who's very short, as you can see driving the car, you generally can't fit adults back here. So that's the rear of the car. About to get into the driver's seat now. You can firstly see you are greeted with a great looking door handle, again a part of the carbon pack I believe, that stretches the whole way round and goes really nice with obviously the leather that's all over the door as well. You get the airbag that was sort of I guess looks almost like an add-on after the fact, which has a nice leather cover on it. And these are quite nice in terms of storage. So they lift up and there's a pretty deep amount of storage in the door, because if you can just see the door, it sort of bows out in shape, so it gives you a pretty substantial place to store things, which with the lock down of the hatch is a nice little touch. Obviously the light setup there along to the Bose sound system, again with the carbon surrounds, which is a part of the carbon pack. Before you get in, you start to look here on the side where the key is mounted for starting. Again, more carbon that sort of runs around the edges of your air vents and light fittings, and there's a nice touch there on the dash. All of the bottom and the top is all leather, so again the luxury continues, as they say. And then coming into the interior, we'll take a seat now into the driver's seat. Just before I do, that's the embossed Porsche logo onto the headrests. Both of them have that. So let's take a seat in the driver's position and just put the seat back a little bit. So when you look around from the driver's perspective, you're greeted by the classic Porsche setup. You have a nice carbon surround in terms of the dial and instrument gauge cluster, greeted by the rev counter, which is center, which is classic Porsche. And then what we'll do is we'll start from, I guess, the passenger side over. So again, the carbon pack came with the door handles on both sides. It came with the vented covers along with the strip that came along there, which joined to the center dash, which was all in carbon. As you came down, you had a carbon fitment here. If you had specified heated seats, this panel would have been where your heated seat switches would go, so there'd be a slightly different setup, but it's a nice carbon touch there. And then with my Tiptronic, there was the added addition of the sort of chrome effect with the carbon effect, and the same with the handbrake as well, which was finished with leather stitching at the back. So again, really nice little features, little touches as a part of the spec on this particular car. As you look across the dash, you will see that this one comes with the PCM system, which I'll turn on in a moment, and we'll get a view of what all of that looks like, along with the gauge cluster. Put the key in and see what lights up when we turn the key to the ignition. on, and as you can see, you're greeted by a row of lights at the bottom that give you all the indicators of the systems on board. Now, one thing that you might notice for those of you who do have an eagle eye is I have paddle shifts here. Now this was a nice retrofit actually done, I believe, by a Porsche dealer by the previous owner. It does allow me in the Tiptronic manual mode, which you see here, to start changing gears with the paddles up and down. They are made of a very nice aluminium, and if I can just show you there, they fit very, very neatly. It doesn't look unsightly, it doesn't look out of place, but looks yeah, like a part of the car. The way they've done that fit is very, very good. It was an expensive addition. I think it looks really nice in terms of the steering setup and the look and feel of that. So I think a really nice addition. It does allow me to change gears, and it moves with the steering wheel. So you know, those options of paddle shifting, whether you have just a long paddle at the back that doesn't move or ones that do move with the steering. I think everyone has their own preference there. Move on to the center console here. So let's turn the PCM system on. Turn it on again. Just turn that down. So the sound system firstly is really good in this. I think the Bose really does, yeah, kick out a fantastic quality of sound here. So it was a nice addition. I think it was a standard edition because it wasn't in the options list, so these cars would have come directly with that. I don't know if it was a standard option across all Porsches of this era in terms of the 911, or if it was just the turbo. I'm sure someone could let me know in the comments on that. But let's just talk around what you get in terms of the center console setup. You have your lock here, which allows you to lock and unlock all the doors and the boot and so on. You have your rear demister, your rear wiper, a cigarette lighter if that's something that you need to use. You have your Porsche stability management system there, or your traction control. These do allow you to raise the spoiler on the back up and down manually as well. I think they do come on automatically. I want to say it's maybe 70, or maybe just a bit higher, 70 mile an hour or a little bit more. I think I remember Clarkson all those years doing a test on this and saying that when the spoiler comes up, it's basically saying that you're breaking the speed limit or something. But anyway, you can actually raise those up manually, and it's a nice touch. I actually quite prefer them down. I think it looks really nice on the lines. I'm not sure what that one would be for. It's a blanking switch, so I guess that's an additional option that would fit in there depending on what it was that the option was. And then you have a dial to adjust the rear wiper and the speed in which it moves. All of the dials are very nice in terms of quality. I know many have suggested that the quality of the 996 inside isn't great, but I guess the car it replaced, the 993, it was a massive step up, and it's sort of laid the foundations for 911s going forward. Everything's covered in leather, so you know, the leather and the carbon all round, and I mean everything from the glove box here, every part of the door except for the sort of the carpeting here. The roof is a suede velvet, I guess, type feel, so everything feels very much of a luxurious quality in here. I wouldn't say it's necessarily cheap looking or yeah, anywhere that you can generally find cheap plastics. Even the sides here, all leather. You might say the the quality of the CD holder could be a little better. I think one of the really cool things, and if you haven't spotted it already, is just here you push and out pops not one but two cup holders, and that was again a really nice addition, so both you and your passenger could have a coffee en route, and then again that just pushes neatly back into the dash. So I think they've always been pretty good at the old cup holders, the 911s. Coming down to the other part of the console, and I'll just move the stick back so we get a better view of that. You've got CD holder where I've got CDs for the navigation system. That's how it used to work before the day. And the nav system, as you can see, is all up and running there, and you can just turn back to the audio setup there, but we'll have a look at that in a bit more depth in a moment. And then the air conditioning unit itself, pretty common unit, I believe, from back in the day. I want to say that these were pretty similar across a lot of the German brands back then, but this one in particular is a it's a pretty simple unit to use. You can have an auto setup, override with manual, and all the usual bits and pieces, and works pretty efficiently. So that is the center console setup. Into the radio itself, or the PCM system itself, you can see that it's got quite a lot of good functionality on it. You've got the audio, which is the station we're on now, just in terms of radio. You've got the sound, the telephone setup, mail, which is where you insert the chip, which I've got here. You just open up this and you slide your little SIM card into the system and close it up, and then you will see that the phone will change to show that I've got coverage. And yeah, you can make phone calls very much like any other car of today through the system, and it will also show you messages from texting and all of that good stuff. So yeah, pretty decent when you think, what, 2003, so not too bad in terms of the tech. So telephone, mail, information, which allows you to look at address books and that within the phone and so on, and then trips, which you can basically set your nav system to a particular trip. Just to the phone bit, I mean, if you're wondering how you answer and do the calls, it's, you know, answer and turn off the call. You have obviously the buttons there to dial your numbers, all of that good stuff. So sort of a pre-built phone into the system itself. On the side, you can basically turn it off in terms of the screen, or turn it back on in terms of its light, and then you have a number of bits and pieces from setting, maps and so on here. Your back button, if you wish to choose so, as you're doing your settings. So, but let's see what
build that up. Some British Airways passengers.
So it's a pretty good sound system. It's loud, it's bassy, and yeah, you can basically set it however you need to in terms of your preference. So that is the system itself. You do have obviously a front changer here, which if I just push, houses your nav disc, and then you've got the CD auto changer, which lives in the front of the boot of the car. But that is the system itself, the PCM system from my car 2003. Okay, so coming down to the Tiptronic system itself, I'll just turn off the air conditioning unit there, just in case there was some background noise. But we have a very simple system. It's as you would expect from an auto. You put your foot on the brake, push the button down, and that allows you to move between reverse, neutral and drive. And if you wish to choose so, you can select manual just by sliding it across. There's no button to lift, you literally just slide across, and you can then work with the manual paddles that I have fitted, or what was standard on the steering back then, and maybe one of the first moves to having buttons on the steering wheel was these Tiptronic buttons, and again, they work very effectively. It literally is a finger touch, a small tap up and down, and you can change gears. Obviously, with the Tiptronic gearboxes themselves, you had the ability to change manually, but they still had the override function, which was always the frustration, I guess, where if you wanted to hold a gear and it got to a certain set of revs, the gearbox might override that and change gear for you. So that's yeah, just some of the things that I guess used to annoy a lot of Tiptronic owners in terms of having sort of full control of the gearbox, but the luxury of auto. So that slots back nicely into position. You've got the electric windows, ashtray, again, if that's your thing. You can have additional buttons here filled, and I don't know what those would be. Maybe I'm thinking now that if you had the Cabriolet version, it would be the window switches for the rear windows. But again, leave your views in the comments if you know what that might, what those buttons might be. Then you have another little lock here, which if you push, pops up your glove box or center console or armrest glove box, which yeah, another bit of neat storage, again all leather covered. So that completes really the center console down through to the glove box. Okay, so here's the driver's view of the instrument cluster on a 996 Turbo. It's very traditional in terms of Porsche layout. You will see here to the right, to the left, should I say, that you have the gauge for your battery, followed by the speedo, which both has analog and digital readout. Here you will see the readout for when you are using the cruise control. The center gauge is your rev counter, along with both analog and digital readout in terms of your onboard computer, which I'll touch on in a moment. You have your indicators left and right, and then full beam as that gets flashed on. You have a small onboard computer which gives you sort of details of fuel economy and miles left in the tank and miles covered and all of that good stuff. So it was one of sort of the first ones that cars used to get. Pretty robust, and does what it needs to do. To the right hand side, you have your gauge for engine temperature and your fuel gauge, along with your gearbox setup. So as you can see, there's a little red light just showing there against park. As I bring that down through the gears on the auto side, you can see the red light move, and then when I switch across to manual, it then allows me to see the gear I'm in when I'm selecting manual mode and changing up and down. So that's a nice little feature, along with the clock. And then finally, just over here, you have your oil pressure gauge. So all of this is the view you get. You have a couple of buttons just up here to do some changes, to set to 0 and clock change and so on, but that is the view from the driver's seat. Okay, so just finishing off now with the interior, you can see this is the view from the driver's seat looking back into the rear of the car, and the nice carpet with split leather pads. I don't call them seats, they are really just pads. And that gives you sort of a perspective of what it looks like from the driver's seat. Coming across to the passenger seat, and you can see the split between the leather and the carpet. It's a dark blue carpet. It looks a lot lighter because of the light on my phone, but it gives you a perspective of the look and feel of the dash from the driver's position. And I guess the final bit, the soft close, very slowly opening glove box, again with that sort of very nice padded felt lining that was used a lot back in the day on more luxury cars then. You'll probably use it now, to be fair. But it gives you, yeah, a good view of what it looks like inside of a Porsche 996 Turbo, from the driver's seat, from the back seat, from the passenger side. And out through the window itself, through the door opening, onto the floor when you step out. That really does conclude the interior walk round, or sit down and look around, should I say, of my 996 Turbo X50 with all of the options that we went through on the certificate of authenticity from Porsche when this car was built back in 2003. I hope you have enjoyed this short but hopefully detailed tour of what the interior looks like, and if you do like what you see, then please be sure to tune in to the next part of this, which will be part 2, which will be the outside tour of the car. Thanks for watching, thanks for the support, and please subscribe if you like what you're seeing.